The current cohort. So Julian Ramirez is an experienced designer and creator, incorporating technical and traditional knowledge. He is passionate about the natural world and its language. He creates 3D environments as experimentation labs for project design, project development, and media production. And as somebody who has seen him in the cohort, I can say that all of us agree he has been an incredible collaborator here in the DSS. And he'll be presenting some of his 3D work and a couple of animations for us to take a look at some of what he's been up to this whole time.
Thank you, Mariette.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna just present a few graphics here. I'm gonna talk a little bit about my story and the experience here with the DSS. Second. My inspiration has always been nature. This is some models that I created for a thesis I wrote in 2005. These are fractal models based all in natural structures and natural occurrences. That was like my first approach to all these concepts, and although that was a little more structural. I have been working with different artists here. This is my co-creation with Dehana, and it's about exploring all this, all these concepts, everything about synergy, spheres thinking, ancestors. This is Niha's work, and nature, the connection with nature, and how we are inside this symphony, and it's a delicate symphony with our earth exists, and how to protect that that rhythm and that connection with everything, as our earth is just something really delicate, and how to protect smaller things that are also part of this whole earth. The smaller things are bigger things consist of smaller things. So it has been an exploration of these two concepts. And I started with the Dymaxion map at some point, which is a really good example of how we can think about being one. And this shows that we're in an island, and we're in the same island. We're all together, and we live in a place that we can call home, wherever you are. So I transferred this to a 3D model. The idea was to have a different approach, a different view of it. And this could be extended to AR or prints or different kinds of media.
Julian?
Yes?
Is it possible to close the little square on the right-hand side? It looks like there's that thing. Yeah, what is that? There's a box on the right that is blocking part of the corner of the screen.
It's on the right.
Yeah, that thing, whatever that thing was.
Okay.
So move, it's still in the way a little bit.
I don't see, it's probably just the panel here, but I don't see anything else. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Where is it again? Here?
It's on the far right bottom corner. It's like a long skinny panel. But if you can't see it.
Don't see it anywhere.
Yeah, okay. Okay. It's not too bad, but it looks like the chat. Yeah, it's.
All right. So we're working with this template, which allows everyone just to draw something with that shape, and that way we can put it on 3D environment. So these are just some examples of what we have done. This is, we map everyone that was part of the cohort. This is something that Stroopy sent us, which is a satellite photograph. And this is Mariette's artwork. It's a digital artwork. I want to present that animation right now, but let me just try again, see if this works better. Better?
It's only taking up a little tiny corner. Oh, yeah. Here we go.
All right.
Okay, perfect.
So this is kind of the most developed project that with the Dymaxion 3D map. It's a combination of digital work and some additions on the 3D environment. I don't know if Mariette could tell us a little more about it.
Sure. We may have to put the volume on that down a little bit. Okay, great. Yeah. So if people can hear me, I'll just say a little bit about it. First off, this was one of the magical pieces about being in the Design Science Studio is that Julian said, does anybody want to work on these? And I said, sure. And I did a couple of iterations and he kept encouraging me to go further. So I'm generally a flat, artist. I don't know how to make 3D. And through working with Julian, I was able to create a rendition of a magical world that's actually culled from pictures and some illustrations, but a lot of pictures from my daily life. And so there are dandelions from my yard. There are different sort of animals that I think about or might have thought about just in a moment while we were all working together. And
How about dynamic emergence? They're scheduled right next to each other.
And so there we go. So the whole process has been very natural. And the scuba background is scuba background I've taken on my own, the audio. So it's been a really natural process. And again, it's been really great to work with you, Julian, and that's and so I wouldn't have done this without you. I wouldn't have been inspired or encouraged to keep going. So I'm really grateful.
As what I do, it's very graphic. It was important for me to have that feedback from other artists and creators, and that's part of this collaboration to find the skills and concentrate on that, but you get feedback and ideas from others, and that it has been a great experience for me too. I want to also share your animation that we did with some members of the DSS. Can I click everything again?
You have felt nature was being polluted on the earth, and auras were fading. You ask, show me what I need to know. Please guide me to a place of healing and empowerment for myself, others, and our earth. Well, that night, you traveled to the 4 directions to meet the magical storytellers and their share magic words for action. Starchild first traveled to the South Sun Portal, which has a platonic cube where the gratitude storyteller lives. The gratitude storyteller says, you must say the magic words. I and gratitude are one. I love gratitude. I will take gratitude action for myself and the earth. Starchild travels next to the West Moon Portal, which has an icosahedron where the kindness storyteller lives. Kindness storyteller says the magic words. I and kindness are one. I love kindness. I will take kindness action for myself and the earth. Starchild travels further to the northern portal of the moon, which has an octahedron where the peace storyteller lives. The peace storyteller says the magical words. I and peace are one. I love peace. I will take peace action for myself and the earth. Starchild travels to the eastern portal of the sun, which has a tetrahedron where the creativity storyteller lives. The creativity storyteller says, what exists in the galaxy exists in the solar system and on the earth and all living things. Both the macro of outer space and the micro are the same. The magical words are, I and creativity are one. I love creativity. I will take creative action for myself and the earth. The last place the star child travels to is to the center of the medicine wheel, the portal of the dodecahedron. Here there are butterflies. You see the transformation storyteller. She says the magical words, I and transformation are one. I love transformation. I will take transformation action for myself and for the earth. In celebration, people are doing actions to help each other and the world heal. Many do practical things to help their environment. There are more healing dreams, kindness to each other, gratitude for all living things, creativity, and peace. A rainbow of light signals the unity of all people, all life and nature. All is well, and all is healthy again, and so it was meant to be.
Thank you, everyone. I gotta say thank you to all the cohort. All this work has been crafted through conversations and interactions of everyone, and it has been a great experience. I say thank you, DSS, Vision Train, Buckminster Fuller Institute, Happy to everyone. It's amazing, an amazing experience. Thank you.
Yeah, Julian, you have stepped in on so many different projects, and the emergence, the dynamic emergence that we hear echoing all around us is something that I think we've all really attuned to, especially in this last week here, as we've come and shared our projects and intertwined our hearts and have an incredible story to share with the rest of the world. And I just am so honored to have witnessed this all with you all. And Julian, you've been a gem. Just thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I guess we're going to move on to the next way of perceiving, of actually understanding, of taking in, absorbing. And we each do that in our own very special way. And I'm going to introduce a very special person who's going to share some of that about herself and the work that she does. And that's Stephanie. And Stephanie's work grows out of the space between art and nature. Her work invites us to wonder, play, expand, and explore. Stephanie believes creativity is our birthright and finds many ways to guide and facilitate that process in herself and for others. She is an immersive artist, photographer, educator, bridge builder, and a weaver. Her work connects us to the nature of who we are and ultimately where we fit in the cosmos. And right now, we are Sphere with Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much. And thank you all. It's really grateful to be here with the Design Science Studio. And today is the Under the Dome. And it's the interbeing of Sphere. And that's this day 10 of our 11-day Regenative. And I feel really grateful to be in this and also understanding. And I want to weave back onto like where this sphere that we're speaking of came from. And I just have this little wish you were sphere little thing right here. And you know, I'm gonna just weave back. So I started in Design Science Studio 1 and cohort 1 and then cohort 2. And in the middle of that, there was also an emergent lab with the University of California in Irvine. And that was about living systems. And the folks, some of them are here today with us. And it was a really interesting program of looking at living systems from a perspective of linear versus nonlinear. And in that time, I came to immediately connect with another cohort speaking a similar language. And it's sort of like, if I'm able to speak how I normally speak, sometimes people will think I'm speaking another language that they don't understand, or some people do understand. And what we've come to realize is that there's this way that it's similar to what I feel is the cosmos, in a sense, and our reflection of the cosmos. And so basically, I started talking with another cohort, Strupi Pohl, who was in Germany, and he was looking at structure from shape, and already interested in Buckminster Fuller before he came into the studio. And because of my background, basically, and I'm going to play a video that we've played here before, but it's important that I share part of it in order to tell some of the story, to jump in, because there's so many places I can jump into. And I just sort of want to like bring us here to understand sort of this idea. In the living systems collaboratory, there was like sort of like a pooling of nonlinear thinkers to come up with different ways to solve today's issue, problems. With a new way of thinking, which is brilliant. And but what we came to realize is that there's a spherical thinking. We sort of wove an understanding, and part of it is like through my seeing of nature, and like sort of like there's this photo, and I'll bring it up afterwards, of like a field of, it's a spider web field, and it's these spheres that you can't even see the connections between them. And when I look at that, it's like Indra's net, and it's like, it feels like the system and the weave and the wave over itself. So basically, for me, what I found is that I see nature in certain ways, and I feel there's a lot of information there to share, as well as innate sensing. And so I've been like, basically, sort of like, I definitely like people say, oh, you're so outside the box, and that's been my whole life. And I did have a moment where I definitely fell in. And that falling in informed me something else. So there's a lot of information to learn from this, but what I really do realize is that I grew up in a creative home, and education, the education system was incredibly challenging for me. And, there was a way in which I would have never, like, I looked at nature and so my photographs then became like, I would show people to be like, I study biomimicry to meet the scientists, to show them, to like, look at this. And then, because science doesn't call it something yet, it's not always understood. So basically, this spherizing is sort of this understanding. And I believe that Buckminster Fuller was trying to teach us this, that like, he couldn't really see so well and hear so well in certain ways. And he felt structure, and it wasn't the box that everybody thinks. And so Strupi was like very much about unboxing things. And I was very much thinking that it was instead of a hierarchical triangle, it was a equilateral triangle. And because I didn't study math, I also had this idea, and I'm going to slow down a little because I get so excited and I have so much to put in. But I kept playing around with this idea that Einstein sort of like, the end of his life, I heard that he wished he was a plumber because what he used turned against things. And I kept looking at that equation and thinking like all the conversations are stacking on each other. And, I just want to bring back to this unless I don't cover it afterwards, but we're going to be doing these. So basically with Stroopy, we created this fuller feedback systems. And it's really like talking about how when we have our feedback loops in place and we think of the space between things and the membrane and the dynamics of shape and structures that actually build and grow, we learn whole new things. And from that, we can build the living systems and the playgrounds of life and like share and show this stuff so kids get this in their education. And so there's a lot to say with that. Though I just keep wanting to come back to the fact that shape and structure, like we've come to understand that the structure that has been boxing us in can't hold us, and it doesn't. And everybody's totally stressed out, and the vagal system and nervous system is totally like we've been really traumatized and traumatizing each other in this society as so far, because when we split the atom, we turned it on itself this way. And so everything is this way. So we're looking from different shapes and ways now in the change of shape. And so I'm going to, this is what I was going to say before. So from here on, we are going to be creating these wonder wisdoms to pool information in a different kind of feed, adding in, and like we believe that, we were born into this design science studio, and in the Living Systems Collaboratory, I came up with a project called Tuning the Vessel, because I realized what Buckminster Fuller was trying to say is that if we don't get into integrity, and the system won't hold us. But when we like look at nature and how nature's solving it, people get lit for life on like little things because they see the solutions within them for bigger ways to do this. And so, lots to say about it. And so many people have influenced me, and so many stories that, pulled me in, because I was pulled by things, because my eyes didn't like fuse like this, where the paper and reading was so easy. They kind of more had a wider gaze. And that's sort of like, as babies, we have a soft gaze because we don't have the muscles yet to pull them in. And there's so much dimensionality in that. So like, there's so much to say, and sensing and all this stuff. I have so much to share on so many fields, and I'm so grateful to be here because there's so many places where we're coming together, and we've watched emergence happen. We've watched it in the studio through time, and like we're seeing it happen, and just really grateful because it's synergy. And when we take energy and we stop using it, like we keep kidding around, like not kidding around, but it's true. We're not trying to make a living. We're trying to make the living systems that make us thrive, that we thrive in. And like I feel, and we feel with these structures, we can do this. So I'm going to play this little video. And I mean, I might be actually out of time to even do that. But I can just actually, instead of doing that, because I do think I'm close to time, aren't I, Roxy? I see you smiling back there.
You're okay.
Okay, how many minutes do I have? Sorry.
You have 15 more minutes.
There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen and play a video right now. And like I said, I've played this, and I'm gonna just share this. I'm gonna make sure I have the audio correct here. What are you seeing now? Just me. Sorry.
If you wanted to have the audio, you'll need
I got
to
it.
the audio button. The audio button.
Yeah. So when I share, it should be sharing this.
Yep, optimize for video and click audio.
My first memories
You see
was
it?
standing right up
And then just push
close
expand so it's
to a
bigger.
television set. And the reason why I did
Let me just go back here.
Looks perfect.
Thank you.
one of my very first memories was standing right up close to a television set. And the reason why I did that was because I went up to turn it up all the way. I couldn't hear it, yet I was so delighted to feel it, to feel the sound. and to see the light undulating. It was such a beautiful memory. I was 2, and it was pretty much the same time that my mom realized that I was having a hard time hearing. That experience informed me of something, of feeling sound and seeing vibration like this picture. So between 1 and 5, there's this inner tripod that forms, and the senses go on top. Well, if there's an issue with ear infections, hearing, eyes, head trauma, emotional trauma, the information might not go where it needs to go. That happened for me, and I believe many people. I was challenged by things that really weren't understood until later, like being very right brain in a left brain world. I didn't have full-on stereo vision, and focus was an issue. Well, how does one focus and concentrate when one's eyes aren't moving smoothly or tracking properly? Tracking became one of the sensory exercises that I did, and it was from that experience that I created this photographic series called A Light Between Heaven and Earth, which is birds in flight. The study of birds and nature and what I was seeing within it led me to the study of biomimicry. Biomimicry is the study of nature, and instead of bioutilizing, it looks at the blueprints. Well, I've been studying spider webs, and webs have become a fascination for me. When I think of spider webs, I think of how we are in utero. We're undulating in this field, and the spiders are on that field, and on that web, and in the movement. And they build those webs and rebuild them each day, and in feeling the field around them, they can respond to the vibration. If something gets caught, they know where to go. They feel it. They actually tune it. To me, it's a great example of a feedback loop. Well, something that I noticed was in my right ear, it felt like the sound wasn't bouncing back. Well, if people can echolocate, which they can, then sound bounces back. I felt like I wasn't getting that feedback information in my right ear, which meant maybe it wasn't going to the left side of my brain. I also learned about mirroring, which is crossing over the brain. The thing about mirroring is it's so embedded in the way we learn in those formative years of our lives. We're mirroring our parents and everything around us. So I thought about mirroring in the sense of giving the other side of my brain information it wasn't normally getting. So I did an experiment. And in the experiment, I took an existing stereo microphone. So 2 mics, a left and a right, and I swapped them. The channel from the left went to the right, and the right went to the left. And I walked around the world, bringing in the sound of everything around me. The thing that it did was it calmed my nervous system and brought me into a different state. The experience was so enjoyable because it's not just amplification, it's feeding new information. So my brain was getting this new information from the environment around me. So you know what it did? It fixed my stereo vision.
Oh,
You're on
you're
mute.
muted.
Okay, so I'm going to be sharing, I'm going to kind of dive into some of those photos because the thing about them that I recognize is my work usually needs to be really large. I've also worked in VR and AR, and everything I have can be a video as well, and which I have many and evidence of how things are from a metaphorical perspective of an ontological design nature. I did go through this sensory integration, which I said, and a lot of it was about spinning and moving and swinging. And so I'm going to dive into some photos, but I'm pulling back for a moment because I just want to share that these playgrounds of life we're speaking of is also dimensionally creating structures where we can do the sort of exercises and experiments and things that I had done before, which allows for calming of the nervous system. So one thing was with the sound, but there was many aspects of that. And to me, it's about unboxing the sensing because we are sensory organisms. And, I've been diagnosed with this condition called synesthesia or many different things. Some people say, there's a whole thing. It's kind of funny. Well, we're talking about neural diversity and also outliers, like people so far out or, but we have to like be be right here in order to be sphere together. And we're really watching how we are spherizing. And in doing so, we are really pulling things together. So lots to say about that. I'm just going to, though, dive in and just show you a little bit more of my work by coming here and sharing this going on right here. And let's see, are you seeing my screen? Or not yet? Are you seeing?
Starting to, yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I'm just gonna dive you into, let's see. So basically this is so doodling is what got me through school. So this is just like one, I have doodles and I doodled my whole life on plates, on things, on napkins, on like, you know, anywhere I went, and especially sitting through class, I doodled and doodled and doodled. And I have like lots of doodling on all kinds of things. What I noticed too here though is if I look carefully, the eyes look a little sad to me, because I can read and write. I can read poetry. You can't see this, but you know, poetry from 18 years old when I was writing about spherical things and understanding that I, you know, the ways in which the system creates such hard walls and things that really sort of trap us in and tighten up creativity. I got very lucky by getting involved in motion graphics for television because I painted with light. You know, I was very lucky in New York because I grew up in a field of artists, and my dad was a film editor, my mom was a painter, and my dad's like, you know, basically I got to experience very non-linear, intuitive technologies where the computer was in another room and I just got to like play with light. And I still miss like my best friend of this thing called a paint box. It was like high-end gear, but it sort of got taken down by the patent world. And you know, it's funny because they're actually doing a documentary about it now, or raising money to, but it was really wonderful. And people were telling me it was going to get closed down in a sense because it was a closed system. It wasn't an open system. And I think that's very interesting now to go back and look at that. But, you know, basically I did broadcast design and I was very successful because I had a network around me. So I got to be creative and do what I do, and everybody did what they did. And I just love that I have that framework of knowing that. And so by a young age, I already won like the Emmy that I thought I would win or wanted to win, and realized, and went traveling around the world. I realized that it was okay. Like I left New York for love and moved out to California. And I kind of knew that world wasn't there. And so we started to kind of play around and think about things. And on my trip traveling around the world, I have too many stories to tell, so I'm going to keep short, but this idea of time is always with me. And so some of these photos, like you see from far away, but if I zoom in and like really take you to things, you get a sense. It's a little hard to move around, and sort of looking for technologies that will make it a lot easier to fly around within organically. What I've come to realize in the studio is that when we work together, we can bounce off of each other. And what I found from looking at, you know, the people who run the Design Science Studio and how they worked, there was a collaborative process of 2 or 3 that would create these really dynamic systems. And see here, you know, 2 makes 4 eyes, which takes me to Stroopy's information, which we can go to afterwards or a different time, perhaps, when we go into the Wonder Wisdoms. But, you know, so I've always seen things that, you know, like, it's sort of like, I don't really have the technology yet to share the way that I want to see as immersively as I can. And I do know what I'm looking for. And I've also traversed the lands of technology, asking and talking to all the people and knowing it's not here yet. And I do know that I can, you know, can bring some of those things in. So basically, you know, this is water on my hand. And I just want to take you into these fields because, as you know, as we just heard before about emergence and, you know, electromagnetics and all these things in water, it's all right here. This is a little hard to see, but I think that it's my finger with water on it. And this one I keep showing. And, you know, the other thing also is just to say that these are all boxes because the technology still has to be created in order to make them in a different way. And I'm going to fly over here for a minute because when I met Stroopy, we started talking about all these different shapes that these can live in. And so I'm just going to come right back over here, which is, can you see this? Do you see it full? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I see it.
Okay. So this one is, this was a plastic bag that was vibrating with music. So basically it's a photograph of a plastic bag. And to me, like, it really shows the membrane of light. It's like, it's really showing that field in a moment of time. And so, like, these ways in which light, you know, I can see the weaves of it. And, you know, because I did motion graphics for television, I also did a lot of compositing. And so, like, I don't want to do compositing in these things. I do them in the camera, you know, and then I play with light, and sometimes I play with exposure, because exposure and focus are really everything to me. It's sort of how you look at it and how you look at it in different lights and time and all these things. So just,
Here we go.
what's that?
Oh,
I'm sorry, I don't hear you. Okay, so here was an experiment that I did. I believe that I can see the sound of dolphins, like the sound of them underwater. Like, so basically I did an ontological experiment, you could say, where I wore a monofin for quite some time, and I would do breathing exercises, staying underwater as long as I could, so I could play with the rainbows underwater. And this is, the middle one is me at the bottom of the pool, so I'd wear a nose plug, and I would spin with my head and just like really just play. And this is me blowing a bubble, and that's where it's breaking at the surface. And so, you know, sort of like it was it's my study, because I believe that we will learn so much research, and it's also the above and below and like water, and there's so much to learn from sound and sonar and all these things that, you know, can be learned from in a different way. So basically, I'm gonna go on back here. So just to dive into different images that, you know, brought up questions for me. Like, this is a spider web. And what I became fascinated with was like that loop that's in there. You know, like, I didn't ever hear about that or read about that. And I, you know, it's sort of like these things that you see in them. Here's another spider web. Let me just move back to this. Sorry. Sort of. What I feel is that this is information on light, and this is part of like signaling and things that, you know, we can use in the way that we share and show things. And so this is water on the web, and it's undulating. So it's just a spider web moving just a little bit.
Stephanie, your photos are amazing. They show so much that we don't see, and the fact that you've attuned through your perspective and through your tools and your sense of being, you're every time you show us these, we zoom into things that we've never seen before, which gives us a whole new perspective of life, doesn't it? Yeah, just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. And like this one, like this is basically a tube. This is like a green tube on a flower. And so it's picking up everything. And that tube, and what I love is that the shape of the reflection almost looks dimensional. So it, you know, it's like there's so much dimension to me that's what I realized, like having stereo vision and then this hyper vision. And, you know, there's a lot of folks who are blind. I want to share this one because I think it's important, who have told me that they see, like, because I have people say, oh, it's blurry or this or that for some of my images, you know, and it's really that I'm looking for a particular one. And it's really that it's depth, it's dimensionality. Like, again, I think I've shared this before, but when you zoom in, when you zoom into anything, you just see, you know, you just see more and more and more and more. And I want to share this because it was so moving today, but I'm up at Mount Shasta. And I'm in an area where literally we drove for miles and miles and miles, and the trees were burnt down, or they were burnt. And we went to this land that was being held really for holding land for years. And there's life on it. And there's obviously water supply somewhere on the land. And so that stayed there. And when we looked at all the burnt areas, we saw new growth all over the place. We saw the brightest of greens growing under all of it. And I think that like what I noticed was I leaned down and there was like the teeniest, beautiful purplish flower there. And when I like zoomed all the way in, like it was like, you know, scale is so important, right? We think we understand. And it's just like, this stuff is like minute right here. You know, it's like, I don't have to go that far to see all this stuff. And the beauty is I can share it. So this one I just want to share because we're going to talk about fascia. And, you know, this is a soap bubble. I love soap. I love bubbles. And the way it almost looks like a vein in the texture of the way that it grows in waves, it makes waves. And I think that a lot of us can see waves and energy. And this is where I said, like with synesthesia, let's unbox it because we have these innate sensings. And like, yeah, we can put all the AI in us and do all that, but like we have barely touched upon ours. So it's sort of like now is the time to bring this to kids, to education, to get onto the land, to grow all the things and build these places where we can grow ourselves because, you know, we're making everything flat and walls and it bounces and it's hard. And it's like, there's so many ways that we're going to weave with floor feedback systems, with all of the people in the cohort and everybody who's been coming in. There's so much dimension to weave here. And so we're going to continue these pools that we can share back to education and back to these kids and back to all the people, because our neural pathways, they continue to grow on, but we learned that they stop and they don't. And so we are growing new neural pathways. And Buckminster Fuller said it would take 50 years to create the technologies, but basically it's 50 years it's taken to create the new neural pathways so that we can create the technologies, and we're doing it right now. And so thank you, all of you. So grateful to be here.
Thank you, Stephanie. So grateful to be able to look through your eyes and see the visions that you see with the perspective that you have. And I know that many of us are like, whoa, this looks like paintings, or how in the world do you capture things like that? Is there a tool specific that you use that you might want to clue us into?
Okay, so I really believe that I've tuned my eyes in order to, you know, I have conversations with the sensory therapists that I work with, and it's really interesting, but we sort of like, when we aren't good at a lot of things, we find the things we're good at and we keep doing them. And so I think that like I grew up sailing and I spent the time like laying over the side of the boat, watching the waves hit the boat and bounce on the boat and then bounce back, and those lumias and the waves. And so I spend a lot of time sitting by trees watching. You know, I've had like deers come right up to me because I'm so still there. And I think that when we sit and we watch, and it, you know, we've spoken about these soft gaze and soft eyes. And so that is just a letting go of your eyes so that you take in more. And when we do that, we can really feel the field. And like, I can, you know, it's sort of like, and I'm saying I can and this and that, but we can. Like, it's not just me, it's we as a species that can tune in all these different ways. And we can learn and grow so much from it. So yeah, thank you.
Well, you are a trim tab helping us to become we and see in the way that you do and shine the perspective that you have and sharing the beaming that you are. So thank you so very much for being with us.
And I just keep thinking that we are together, the trim tab that is changing the shape of the system itself. And we're doing it right here. And I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for this coming into being.
Thank you.
Right. The inner being, the sphere.
That is
and that came through a collaborative thing that was so beautiful. We watched it emerge and we're all part of it. So thank you for being sphere with us.
Being the interbeing sphere.
If you want to know more about floor feedback systems, we'll put the links there, or my work, which we can just put the links for. And this, I just want to say this. So this image is one of, we're going to do 12 metal prints. And so this is the first time. It's been really hard for me to change the shape of my work. So we're printing 12 large scale. So it'll be like 24 inches. And the proceeds will go to a combination of Design Science Studio, floor feedback systems, and, you know, to create them, and to the artist as well for the years of putting into it. But yeah, so we're going to be offering that here. So there'll be 12 of 12 metal prints that are 24 inches, and we could talk about that later. So thank you so much. as a first
Wonderful.
step. Thank you.
Thank you for your generosity for sharing what the proceeds from that as people want to sit with them in their domiciles. And again, thank you. You've become a dear friend, and you are a friend to many in the studio, helping work on various ways. And you show up in all different places, like in Germany with Stroopy. So we're going to take a break. We're going to take a moment to restart the live stream. And we're going to have a little music from Wahinya while we do that, and queue up once again. So enjoy, and we'll be back in a moment.